Hi, thank you for taking a look at our project. My name is Patricia Giunta, one of the student authors on this project. Our project came from a group of MD and NP students working in an interdisciplinary way to address a lack of content in our standard curricula surrounding LGBTQ plus health. Um, we have found that there are fewer than 5 hours in the first year medical school program on LGBTQ plus content, with most of that centered on sexual history taking and STIs. Um, and the majority of that works with cis gay people. There's very little representation of the trans community, and when it is covered, it's typically in very low levels, things like pronouns, which are important, but we felt that there was a lack of in-depth information available. So our project aimed to create a self-study module, educating patients about more specific health concerns faced by the population, as well as giving them the tools to advocate for patients as we go forward in our careers. So we've created this online self-study module. We're following two fictional patients across their lifespan, with the medical and nursing student who is taking the module playing the role of the physician. Um, so to promote engagement, there's a number of different presentations of the content within each lesson. We typically start with a patient narrative, introducing the patient and their family, have the student work through some interactive scenarios and quizzes just to check their knowledge. And then we also include some didactic traditional material like lectures and PDFs. Throughout, we decided to integrate local resources such as advocacy and community organizations. And our hope for that was that we would increase student awareness of the local community and teach them how to integrate these resources into their interactions with patients today. So in each phase of this project, we wanted to make sure that we were centering LGBTQ plus people. So we have a team that is majority queer trans identifying students, and we have worked with the local community to get feedback from them and ensure that we're creating a module that really helps teach students in a way that will benefit the actual population we're aiming to improve healthcare for. Down here, this is a content outline, non-comprehensive, of what is covered in each of our lessons. This is taken from the introductory page of our self-study module. So we have an intro terminology chapter. This came about from talking to students who do not identify as gay or trans, or queer or trans, who felt that there were certain topics and concepts that they didn't really understand and had no background in. So we decided to start with this to create a shared terminology for everybody. Lesson 1, we talk a little bit more on healthcare disparities and what specific issues face the community that future clinicians need to know about. Lesson 2 is one of our favorites. We talk about WPATH and UCSF and other provider resources for gaining more information. These, of course, come up again in the later modules as references. We wanted to make sure people had a good basic understanding of what those references were referring to. Something that came up when we started meeting with queer and trans identifying students was the idea of including online resources that patients use. So a lot of queer and trans youth, and particularly the trans community, use things like Tumblr and Reddit to get an idea of what sort of medical things are open to them. Things like hormones, options for different hormones, surgeries and which surgeons they should go to, and then accessories like binding. So we wanted to make sure that students who are going to become clinicians are aware of the information that their patients have access to and the information that their patients are most likely using. Lesson 3 is where we meet our patients. So we follow our two patients across their lifespan, starting with their first time exploring gender as a child. We use this to teach things like puberty blockers, but we also talk about the more mental health aspects of working with families and gender diverse children. And we touch a little bit on legal things like name changes. Adult health similarly goes over both medical and non-medical things. We talk about pregnancy and trans and non-binary patients, creating safe spaces, especially in traditionally gendered clinics like OB-GYN, and then as well affirming hormone and surgery. In elder patients and end-of-life care, we talk about how to take care of LGBTQ elders. In particular, a few of the things we focus on are how to communicate with a generation that had a much stronger stigma than we have now and how to work with that. And then legal considerations like designating healthcare proxies and the importance and how that's different for queer and trans people. So right now we're in the final stages of development. We've essentially authored the whole thing. We've met with a bunch of working groups, both LGBTQ plus identifying and non-identifying people, to talk about issues that are not as clear as we thought they were from our perspective, or things that we're missing that people feel need inclusion. In our early rollout, we're working with student-led courses and interest groups so that we can distribute more broadly to the student community. And in this phase, we're collecting efficacy data so that we can update the module periodically, but also to demonstrate its success. And we want to ultimately create a data set that will allow us to advocate both at UMass and then provide the tools for other people to advocate at their own schools for the inclusion of this content in their mandatory curricula rather than as a self-selected, a self-study module. So in conclusion, we're really hoping that this will increase hours, training hours, and then the depth of training that students have access to. But in addition, we're really hoping that this will prove that this is information that students want and that students will benefit from. And when students benefit from it, it can only help patients who really are the ones being most affected by this gap in the curriculum. Thank you.